All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we're going deep on something super relevant, especially in the business world these days.
Yeah, you can't really escape it, can you?
No way. We're talking about ethics,
Ooh, tricky.
and specifically how we communicate about it, especially when it comes to corporate social responsibility,
Yeah.
all that good stuff.
Like sustainability, stakeholder engagement.
Exactly. The tough calls, right?
Mm.
How do companies make decisions that are good for people and the planet, but, also keep the lights on?
It's a balancing act for sure. And knowing how to talk about all of this clearly and confidently.
Makes all the difference. That's why we're diving into a lesson all about it. Business ethics and social responsibility communication. And just glancing at it, there's so much to unpack here.
Where do we even begin?
Maybe with the vocabulary. They've got this whole list of power words, the kind of terms that make you sound like you know what's up in these conversations.
I'm all ears. Let's hear them.
Okay, one that immediately jumps out at me, ESG.
Oh, yeah, ESG.
I feel like I see that everywhere these days. Environmental, social, governance, right?
That's the one. But, what's the big deal with it? Why is everyone suddenly obsessed with ESG?
Well, think about it from an investor's perspective.
Okay, yeah.
They're not just looking at profits anymore. They want to know, is this company sustainable? What's their social impact? Are they governed ethically?
So it's a way to kind of measure a company's long-term value,
Yeah.
beyond just the bottom line.
Exactly. And if companies can't articulate their ESG story, if they can't explain how they're managing those risks and opportunities, well,
They might get left behind.
big time. All right, next up, let's talk about actually speaking with confidence when it comes to ethics. This lesson dives into some grammar, which I know might sound a little nerdy, but trust me,
Grammar can be powerful.
totally. So they highlight the future continuous tense and modal verbs for certainty.
Okay, break that down for me.
Sure. Instead of saying, we might reduce our carbon emissions, you say, we will be reducing our carbon emissions.
Ah, so it's about projecting a sense of commitment. This isn't just an idea, it's a plan in action.
Exactly. And then those modal verbs like must or should.
Add a sense of obligation. We must prioritize ethical sourcing. We should consider the impact on all stakeholders. Boom.
It makes those ethical principles sound non-negotiable.
I like it. Especially, I imagine, in those formal business settings, like a big presentation or a report.
It's like you're embedding ethics into the very structure of how the business operates. Okay, so the lesson also gives us a bunch of handy phrases for ethics communication.
Ooh, like cheat codes for sounding ethical.
Well, not quite.
Yeah.
But they can definitely be helpful starting points. Like, how do you respond to a journalist who's grilling you about your company's environmental record? Or how do you explain a difficult ethical decision to your employees in a way that makes sense?
I guess it's about having the right language at your fingertips, so you're not fumbling for words when the pressure's on.
Exactly. And here's the big caveat, words without action.
They're pretty much meaningless.
Totally. A company can say, we prioritize stakeholder engagement all day long. But if they're not actually listening to their employees, their customers, the community,
It's just empty talk.
and people can see through that. Which brings us to the real challenge here, the heart of ethical communication.
Lay it on me.
How do you actually walk the walk, not just talk the talk?
Because that's where things get real. It's not about memorizing a bunch of phrases. It's about navigating those complex situations, when profits might be at odds with what's ethically right.
And then how do you communicate that?
Honestly, transparently, in a way that shows you're genuinely trying to do the right thing, even when it's hard.
This lesson actually has a whole activity about analyzing an ethical dilemma.
Ooh, like a case study.
Kind of. So imagine you're a company and you discover that one of your suppliers isn't meeting ethical standards.
Uh-oh.
Right. Maybe they're using child labor or polluting the environment. But switching suppliers would be costly. What do you do?
That's a tough one. Do you prioritize profits or principles?
And then, once you make that decision, how do you explain it to your stakeholders, to the public? Because there are going to be people who disagree with you no matter what you choose.
It's about justifying your actions, explaining your reasoning, and showing that you've really grappled with the complexities of the issue.
And honestly, I think this whole area of business English, of ethical communication, it's not just about language. It's about leadership.
Yeah.
Because when you can articulate those values clearly and convincingly,
You can inspire others to act. to do better, to hold themselves accountable.
That's powerful stuff. And as businesses become increasingly global, this need for clear ethical communication across cultures and languages is only going to become more important.
You're right. It's like, how do we make sure those values translate? How do we build trust and understanding in a global marketplace?
Big questions, but important ones. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty fired up about this.
Me too. It's a challenge for sure, but it's also an opportunity.
Absolutely. So, listeners, we're throwing this question out to you. Think about those tough choices in your own work, those ethical dilemmas, those gray areas. How would you navigate them? What would you say? Let us know. Until next time, keep diving deep.
Dive deep.